I guess before we get into our main topics and everything, since we were just talking about the Snake Eye stuff, let's go ahead and we'll kick it over to Earth 2 John, and he can leave his review, and then we'll talk about it from there after what he has to say.
Take it
Hey,
away,
hope
John.
everybody's having a good day. Sorry I couldn't be on the show today. I had some other stuff coming up that just couldn't get everything worked out to make squeeze everything in that I wanted to do today. So unfortunately, I won't be on the show. But I did want to leave my quick review of the new Snake Eyes movie. I should preface this by saying, I was more of a Transformers kid growing up than I was a GI Joe kid. I had a handful of GI Joe figures. I think I maybe had one or two vehicles, but for the most part, my toys when I was growing up were Transformers and superheroes. I still like G.I. Joe. I watched the cartoon. I loved the G.I. Joe movie, the animated movie when it came out. And enough so that, I went to the theater and saw the first two G.I. Joe movies when they came out, 5, 10 years ago. I thought they were fine. I didn't think that they were anything exceptional, but I thought they were, pretty good for what they were. Um, so I can't speak to the history and like the canon of GI Joe and how well Snake Eyes fits excuse me, within the canon of everything that has gone on in the GI Joe series over the years. I don't remember all the episodes that well. um, but as far as the new movie goes, I thought it was fine. um, that's being a little generous. There was a lot of stuff that was really good about it. The acting I thought was pretty good for the most part. Henry Golding is really good. If you've seen him in other stuff, I think you know what kind of quality he brings to a role. So he was excellent in his role as Snake Eyes. Some of the other actors, the woman that plays his I don't know if love interest is the right word, but definitely someone that has he makes a connection with his female person that he makes a connection with. She's excellent in her role. Storm Shadow, the guy that ends up playing Storm Shadow, is really good in his role as well. So the three main actors of the movie are all excellent. You do get Baroness and you do get Scarlet in the movie. Their performances were fine. They may have chewed the scenery a little more than I kind of would have hoped. But it was more of a kind of early 2000s, late 90s comic book performance from those two. Um, and I don't know if it was necessarily the actresses themselves or if it was the material they were given with. Ultimately, that kind of is what holds the movie back is the story. Um, I don't know. I'm going to get into spoiler territory here, so if you don't want any spoilers about the show, you might want to just skip ahead, or maybe Rob will drop some timestamps in here for you to skip over this section. But the story makes you kind of not like Snake Eyes, the character of Snake Eyes, for about 75% of the movie. It starts with him as a young boy seeing his father killed, and then throughout the rest of the movie, he's on this mission of revenge, which in and of itself is fine. Revenge movies can be excellent. But the way they go about making him seek revenge is very, I don't know what the right word. It's very disturbing. It doesn't feel heroic. It doesn't feel like a guy who you want to root for. So much so that he gets approached by a gentleman telling him that he can provide information about the guy that killed his father, which is ultimately what Snake Eyes wants. He wants to find the guy that can kill his father and get his revenge. Um, and so Snake Eyes agrees to work for the guy, and the guy he agrees to work for is trying to go after Storm Shadow. And so, well, the actor, the character that eventually becomes Storm Shadow. And the character that becomes Storm Shadow is next in line to lead this ancient clan of Japanese ninjas that have kept Japan safe for centuries, a very altruistic group of people. Um, and so when you find Snake Eyes kind of becoming friends with this gentleman, you think, oh, this is awesome. Like Snake Eyes is going to see the good that this clan does, and he's going to turn on this bad guy that's trying to get them. And Snake Eyes doesn't do that. Snake Eyes sticks with the bad guy because all he cares about is getting vengeance on the guy that killed his father. So much so that he's willing to take apart this good organization that is doing good things for Japan and the world in general, and that is, you know, actively fighting against Cobra. Um, and so Snake Eyes ends up pursuing, there's a mystical thing that Snake Eyes is after for the bad guy in this movie, and he ends up getting this mystical item that the clan has been protecting for centuries, and Snake Eyes turns it over to him. And so finally, after Snake Eyes, 75% of the way into the movie, you find out that Snake Eyes has gotten this thing for the bad guy. He's given it to the bad guy. The bad guy now has ultimate power, and the bad guy fulfills his part of the deal and gives Snake Eyes the man who killed his father. And only then do we find out that Snake Eyes, the guy reveals that he was working for Cobra. When he went up against Snake Eyes' dad and killed his dad, it was for Cobra. So, of course, this revelation makes Snake Eyes want revenge against Cobra. And who's working for Cobra? The guy he just handed the ultimate power thing to, this mystical power thing to. And then that's when the script flips and Snake Eyes becomes the good guy and goes after this guy. But nothing about Snake Eyes' motivations feels good. I mean, the only reason he turns and turns to the side of good and works with the Joes is because he finds out that his dad was a Joe, and that, the evil organization Cobra is the one that ultimately was responsible for killing his dad. So it's really hard to get invested in the movie. It's really hard to feel good about the character. As far as an origin story goes, going forward, knowing what we now know about the character, it's going to be hard to root for Snake Eyes and feel like, oh yeah, this is a real hero. It's more like a guy who's just kind of still out there fighting against Cobra for revenge, and not because he feels some sort of obligation to be good or has some strong moral code. So that being said, the story really did not hold up for me. I didn't care for the story so much. I will say that the action scenes were good and bad. There were some that were the quick cuts, like close-ups, like you can't see what's going on, and I guess supposed to put you into the action. And I've never cared for those types of fight scenes. I just get lost. I just go, okay, stuff is happening, and I kind of tune out. But there were some good fight scenes. There were some good sword fights. I apologize for that. Somebody's texting me. So all in all, the movie was fine. I wouldn't go in expecting any kind of like re- revelatory comic book movie or anything, or even it's, I guess, not even a comic book movie. Any kind of just action movie. It was pretty standard fare. Unfortunately, I had much higher hopes for the movie. So it is what it is. If I were, trying to decide if I needed to go to the theater and see it or wait for it to hit streaming, I would definitely say just you could wait for it to hit streaming. I don't anticipate it's going to do that well. I don't anticipate we'll be seeing a Snake Eyes sequel anytime soon. I mean, box office is going to be hurt from the pandemic alone, but I can't imagine this movie's going to get great word of mouth and drive a lot of people to see it. So it is what it is. I think that, ultimately, if you go in with pretty low expectations, you won't be real disappointed like I was. So thanks for letting me take a moment to give you my rundown of Snake Eyes. I know the guys have a good show. There's lots of good topics coming up. Like I said, I really wish I could have been there to talk about some of them, but I'll definitely be back next week. And until then, you guys take care.
So there we have it. And interestingly enough, like I said, I hadn't heard John's review of it, and he says the same things I've heard. He just further
Yeah.
confirms that Snake Eyes is unlikable, so that's kind of annoying. The other thing too, since he was already talking spoilers, the other thing I heard about this, and I always want to see what your opinion is on it, Rick. Apparently, with like the Storm Shadow thing, and like John said, like Snake Eyes like is working for the bad guy, and his ultimate motivation is revenge. So like he ends up siding with Cobra and like does the thing, and then he like if I'm remembering correctly, one of his first kind of like missions for Cobra is to infiltrate Storm Shadow's clan, right?
Yeah.
And so like he does that, and like you kind of see that in the trailer where like Storm Shadow takes him there and like whatever. But then, like, apparently what ends up happening is, like, because he's working for Cobra, he does something that ultimately, like, betrays the clan, and then it inevitably leads to Storm Shadow being kicked out of his own clan. So, like, that's why he gets, like, exiled from the clan, and then apparently, like, later on, once, like John said, Snake Eyes finds out that, oh, like, Cobra's, like, betrayed him, so he wants to betray Cobra. Apparently, he like, the clan just welcomes Snake Eyes back in.
Hey, come on back, buddy.
Yeah, and it's like, wait a minute, you exile Storm Shadow, who's been a member of the clan and has like a blood right to the clan, or I don't know why, but obviously something that had to do with Snake Eyes. Ultimately, I imagine you exile him, but then Snake Eyes betrays you, and then comes back, and it's cool.
He's in the club, yeah.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, I don't know. Does hearing John's review and then like the things that I've heard make you like what? How do you feel about?
I'm
the
just
movie
gonna
at this
wait till
point?
it goes on streaming. I have no desire to go,
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, after hearing
which
all the
sucks. I mean,
yeah, after hearing all this like stuff about it from other like critics and other reviews I've heard, and then John's lining up like exactly like everything I've heard, I don't even know if I care to watch it at this point. Frankly, like I normally
I
like.
wasn't like itching to see it to begin with. But
No, I thought it looked cool, and, like, had it been, like, a really good movie and people would recommend it and, like, etcetera, then I
maybe
would
you
have
go
definitely
see it.
watched it,
Yeah,
but knowing that, like, it's ultimately going to lead to nowhere because it's, like, so bad that there's probably not gonna be any sequels to it, they're probably gonna scrap the whole thing if they planned on doing other ones and what have you, then it's like, what's really the point, you know?
yeah,
It's like when a show goes on and you find out it got canceled after, like, its first season and didn't get to, like, actually have, like, a finale, like, would you bother watching it? You know what I mean? Because they obviously probably set some stuff up in this movie for there to be a sequel,
yeah.
and if it's just ultimately not gonna get the sequel, it's like, is it even worth it? It's like all the
Right,
reviews are pretty bad, and if they're not gonna continue it on, I don't really know if I feel like wasting my time.
right.
Like,
That's how I feel, and it
especially
sucks.
the shaky cam I don't wanna watch that
Like,
shit.
I love Snake Eyes. I love the way he looks. I love his armor, his helmet, all that stuff. I'm like a sucker for that stuff. But that really disappoints me to hear that it was such a bad movie. Like,
I know, dude.
and usually John's like got the positives on like movies. Like I'm not saying like he likes bad movies, but John's always got something positive to say about movies that in your perspective may be lacking or whatever. But I mean, he just sounds like he didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seems to find
He see,
like the brighter
he's a
things,
glass
you know?
half full kind of
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
when it
yeah.
comes to that.
Like
Yeah,
I'm definitely more. Well, that's the thing. I definitely can set aside some problems if the good stuff is good, but
yeah.
like the good has to outweigh the bad. If the
It
good,
sounds like it
yeah,
doesn't.
if the good doesn't outweigh the bad, then it's really hard for me to like encourage anything of the movie, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is disappointing. Nevertheless, though, I guess the question is though, guys, have you seen Snake Eyes? If you have, were your thoughts kind of in line with John's and then everything I've heard, or did you like it? You know, whatever it is you think about Snake Eyes, let us know down in the comment section below.